So, Emily, do you hear me now?
I sure do.
Okay, let's go ahead and get going. It's the top of the hour, and we've got a number of attendees that have joined us this morning. So first off, my name is Patrick Vanderhyde, and I'm the Community Support Manager. From Tableau, we have a panelist, Diego Medrano, who also works here in our support group with us and does our support Twitter feed. So that's that he's joined us this morning, and then Tracy has joined us as well. And Tracy is the community strategist and manages all things related to kind of the platform and the community. So we have that team, and then we have Emily, who will be presenting this morning. Emily Kund, and she's going to be presenting a presentation called "Small Tips, Big Results," and a little bit of information about Emily. Emily's podcaster for the Tableau Wannabe podcaster. She's a Tableau Social Ambassador, so you might see her if you subscribe to her Twitter handle. It's Emily1852. Emily, I'm always curious about the 1852. Maybe you can share where that came from.
Sure.
And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, I joke that that's the year I was born because I'm so old, but really it relates back to my sorority. So my sorority is FAMU, and that was the year we were founded. Actually, here's a little Friday fun fact for you. My sorority is actually a fraternity because when we were founded in 1852, it was before the word sorority was in existence. So learn something every day.
Learn something new. Yeah. So you're the Government Tableau User Group co-leader and the Fringe Festival founder. And what's a Fringe Festival? Why don't you tell everyone what that is real quick, too?
Sure. So it's a virtual conference that's based around Tableau, and it really is an opportunity to give the Tableau community a platform to provide their message. So we know not everybody is going to be able to speak at the big show. So we have a few conferences set up. Actually, this year we expanded from our initial TFF that spanned US and UK. We've gone into APAC, and in 2017, we are going to do an EMEA conference as well. So it's all virtual and free, and I love being able to highlight some of the great community folks and their information and just really, really good messages. So that's a passion project of mine.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and switch you over to presenter to get that started. And while I'm doing that, this morning we thought that since it's the holidays and it's the end of the year, it would be also a good time to maybe share a few of the things that we had still in our closet and create a couple of gifts for our audience. And so today, as Emily's going through her presentation, she's come up with a couple of trivia questions that she'll talk about at the end. And when she has those questions, if you could use the chat feature, so you might want to find your chat feature. And in the chat feature, you can just be the first person to respond with an answer in that chat feature. Now, one of our attendees, Sean, noticed that you can't see maybe everybody else's comments. I'm not sure if you can or not, but that's okay if you can't. We'll know who the first person is who responded to the question, and then we'll let you know right there. The other thing to tell you is we have, as part of this, we have a couple of T-shirts, only one medium and two of them are extra large. So knowing which one of those might be appropriate for you as well is good. And we'll just put together these two boxes and send them out and surprise you with our own little Tableau Christmas box. So that'll be kind of fun. And with that, Trey, you should have the ball.
All right. And then just to double check, do you see my opening slide?
No, I do not see. Are you sharing your screen yet?
Well, I thought I was, but
yeah.
All right, let's see here. Share.
There we go.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, now I'm sharing.
Yep.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So thank you, Patrick, for that introduction. I'm super excited to be on another Think Data Thursday. This is definitely outside of my comfort zone, so I appreciate the opportunity to step outside and do something that's kind of a stretch for me. But it's going to be a fun one. I love being able to give away gifts, so I'm super jazzed about it. All right, so let's get into it. So as Patrick mentioned, it's small tips and big results. Really, my objective is to share useful tips that will help you in the flow, along with why each tip is helpful and when you might use it. So providing the tip and also the use case for it. As I was going through some refresher training, I realized that there were little tricks and tips that I really wasn't aware of. And I thought, oh my gosh, do other people know about these things? Because they're awesome. And that's when, like a couple of days later, I was getting ready for work, and I just posed a simple question on Twitter one morning. I shared my favorite tip and then asked, what's yours? I got 23 responses that I'll go ahead and put in a blog post this weekend. And but I also wanted to share some of those with you. So I changed kind of the slant of the discussion today to incorporate some of those community-based favorite tips. So let's go ahead and dig in. So you might ask, well, Emily, what then is your favorite tip? And my favorite is creating a blank calculated field. I learned this I guess maybe a couple of years ago, and it just blew my mind with how easy it was and how effective, at least for me. So let me get out of presentation mode for a second. So, you know, you've got a pill on the rows, and now you've got this ABC, and that's kind of annoying. And it's like, oh, what do I do with this? I don't want that showing, even if it's just in like a prototype kind of mode. So my favorite way to get rid of the ABCs is to go ahead and create a calculated field. There we go. And I call it blank. And you just use the single quote, space, single quote, click OK. And now you've got blank. And you can throw that right on the text. And now the ABCs are gone. So that's my really simple way of getting rid of the ABCs. And I know that there are some other ways to do it. One of my coworkers had something with I think an actual more like a table calc to do it, and God bless them. But I'll just stick with my I'll stick with my simple one because I want to do something simple and then move on. So the next tip I have is changing default properties. And this one actually comes from Julie Savino. Hopefully I pronounced her name right. I also love this, and to me it's a big result because it helps save time. So sometimes the big results are the impact into the visualization, and then other times the big result is just efficiencies that you can gain. So for me, I really dig this one. So we have these, so changing defaults is really easy to do. You can go to the data item you're looking for. In this case, we'll look at category, and then go to default properties. And this is pretty awesome. If I can get my menu back. There we go. So, you know, if I want to change the color so that I don't have that standard automatic color, maybe I want to change it to something a little more fun. I'm a big fan of purple. So in this case, we'll just use it. So now every time I use category, that color will persist. Likewise, I can also, and this is something that I really love, is, oh, wait, where'd it go? So another way you can, another function that you can do is to change the number. So right now we have it as decimals, but really it's not meaningful. We don't need to be that precise. So changing it to the whole, oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, Emily. That you can do a lot of the initial setup work, and that way you can just move on. And to me, that is a big time saver, because then I don't have to go through and every time I'm using that same data item, I don't have to continually fiddle with it. I set it and forget it. So the next tip is tip number 3. That comes from Matt Francis. Again, I've used this tip as well in my work, and I really like it. It is including the data source and the update date in your worksheet. So this is super easy and super awesome. So why should you do this, or why would you want to? Because somebody is going to want to know. It reduces the amount of questions about when the data was updated and where you got the data from, because I know myself, when I would do this for work, I always got that question. When was the last time this data was updated? Because they've made a change and they don't see it in the viz, and so there was a time lag, and so this helps facilitate that. So if they know that they made a change on, in this case, December 11th at 10:30 p.m., that it's not going to be presented in my data. So the way to go about that is, and we'll just go to the sheet here. It's super easy. It's essentially using the insert button, and there's the data source name and data update time, and you just include that so we can show you. And so I like to just put headers because I don't want it to be random. And there you go. So this one is one where I think it can head off some questions and make your life and the life of the person using it a little bit easier. So the next tip that I have, oh, something happened there, is a paste-in filter box. And something happened with my title screen here, but that's okay. Let's keep plowing. I actually wasn't aware of this until Tom Brown replied to my tweet about one of his favorite tips, and this paste-in filter box. I think it's pretty neat. So I set up the visualization, and what if somebody emails you a spreadsheet and says, look, I want to know what these 3 products are, how they're performing. So I'll go over to my spreadsheet here, and let's just say they want to know about paper, phones, and tables. Let's copy. And we'll move back over to Tableau. And when we paste it right into the filter box, we can automatically see how paper, phones, and tables are doing. So we're honing in right on the data. It's just another way to filter. So I want to show you just how I did that filter box. So as you can see, I've got subcategory. I've got that on my filter shelf. And then I selected multiple values with a custom list. And that's what brings up the text box, which that allows me to just paste that right in. So, you know, I think Tom also has a blog post about this, which he goes through and talks about and has examples as well. In his example, he used states. How different states, what the sales were, I think, in those states. So it's really nice because that way you can, somebody's emailed you, they've asked you a real quick question, copy, paste, and you can send it back to them. Easy peasy. Tip number 5 is, I don't know what happened to some of my images, but tip number 5, this is really what started it for me, this concept of these small tips, big results. As I mentioned, I was going through some refresher training, and I saw a little segment on calculated sets, and I was like, whoa, this is totally a game changer. So to me, it's, I think sets are great, but you don't want to have to keep continually updating them. So you do that kind of programmatically. When I saw this tip, or when I saw this piece in the starter kit, I thought, oh, I already know like a use case for work where if I'm looking at companies with assets over a certain size, I can conditionally set up, and then I don't have to worry about it and go back in. Once I refresh the data, it will automatically go into the set that I need it to be in. Like say I'm interested in banks over $1 billion or something like that. So in this particular case, again, I continue to use the Superstore data set because, isn't that our favorite? So one of the ways that you can do this is to create a set. Now, I have it already set up here. So I'll show you from the edit screen how it works. So I provided my name. In this case, it's calculated set for customers over 15,000. I use the M as thousands because that's what it represents for me, my work. And so in the General tab, you make sure that you have the Use All button selected. This will make sure that when your data is refreshed, that the new data will be considered in the condition. So then you select the Condition button, and by field, you can say, I want to know the sales with sums over or equal to $15,000, and click OK. And then you just put the set on the rows in this particular case, and we can see we have 3 customers that have sales over 15,000 or 15,000 or more, and then we have a whole laundry list with them out. And then we can just go on and do our analysis from there. But I love it because, it was such a, I don't know why I was so amazed by this. I guess it's the little things in life, but this to me was like, oh my gosh, I can just set it up, and then when my data is refreshed, it's done for me. This is awesome. So I wanted to share that, and that's where it really what got this thought in my head about sharing these little tips, because I thought for sure everybody knows this, but maybe you're like me and you didn't. So the next tip is comes to us from Rodrigo Caloni. He shared this awesome tip. Don't you wish? I kind of shared it all. Let me go back. Don't you wish that the access title was at the top and not the bottom? In this case, I'll re-add it as I was playing with this workbook earlier. So this is how it would show up when you first created this div. But you want to know before you read what you're reading. And so by adding the title at the top, it just makes it a little more user-friendly. So we can do that by putting the measure name on the column. And then I can do some formatting, like I can clear out. This is just one way to do it, I suppose, but I could just clear out the title. I can format this title then to be bold and a little bit larger. These are little things that are preference or stylistic items that you could do later. But Providing it up at the top is I thought, a pretty neat trick by doing the measure names on columns. So thanks, Rodrigo, for sharing that, because that's super awesome. The next tip that I want to chat about is using parameters to switch sheets. And this is one that kind of comes from me, but Matt Francis is the one that had to really talk me through it at first, because parameters made me nervous. I kind of got the concept, but then I didn't quite know. So I'm showing today using parameters to switch sheets. And I did this, I used it in my, mentoring tool. So that was my use case for it. But let's say, for example, you want to show the top products. So I've created the viz already. And I'll just hide some of this stuff, so that will. So I've got this viz, and I've created my top customers viz. But then how do I kind of show them both, but just providing the user the driver to show one at a time. So that way I don't have to do two different dashboards. I can have them on one, but only show the customer what they want. So we start with creating the parameter. So as I mentioned, I have it kind of already done up, but I'll show you through the edit screen. I've just simply called this switch sheet parameter. And I have, I'm using a list. So I want to display either the top customers, which I've entered in, or the top product, which I typed in as well. And then I click OK. So the parameter is kind of like the car. It drives you to where you want to go, but the car needs an engine. So that's where you create this switch sheet calculation. Again, I don't have a fancy name for it. It's just, for me, I know that this is what it's going to do. And so what Matt taught me, which I thought this was awesome, because, I mean, anything that's easy is up my alley. So by creating this calculated field that is just parameter of switch sheet parameter, it's a valid calculation, and that's the engine that's going to drive our car and drive us to our selection. So we will show the parameter. Oh, it's there, okay. And then we will put the switch sheet calculation on the filter. And let me just make sure I'm on the right. Okay. So one of the things when you're doing this is that you have to make sure that your parameter selection and your calculation line up. So as you see here, I have my top customers, but nothing's showing because I have my parameters selected to top products. So when I select top customers and I make sure that my switch sheet calculation is checked with top customers, then I get my viz. So we'll go back to top products. We'll do the same type of thing where we'll put the switch sheet calculation on. And I need to put I need to show my parameter control. That'll be for products. Again, line it up so that the product, so that my viz shows. And now I can create my dashboard. So what I've done is I've put a container on the dashboard, and I have both vizzes that I've pulled into this container. I have the parameter showing. And so when I select my top customers, then it'll change. Likewise, if I select top products, it'll change. So this is great. So that way, your customer or your audience doesn't have to look at two different visualizations or look at two different things because maybe they are just interested in top products. It's just another way to get to the information that the person's looking for a lot easier. And because I couldn't help myself, I had to change my title to include the parameter. So that way I have the show me the whatever the user selected. Remember, for me, this is what really helped me out was that the parameter that you need the calculated field is the engine to the parameter to make it go. So that was something that really resonated with me, and so I always like to share that. All right. So the next tip comes from Eva Murray, and it's just being able to scroll quickly. And so there are two different, depending on whether you're on a PC or a Mac, you can control using a page up and down for PC or function up, down arrows on the Mac. So you can see here, it works better if I have all of my images. But all I'm doing is hitting the function and then the page button or the up, down arrows since I'm on a Mac currently. And that's how that works. But again, just a little time saver. But so all of these things, even though they're little tips to me, I think about all of the little stuff adds up. So, the little pieces that we can find can add up and make a big difference in just our usability and our experience. So the first one, I have really started, I like URL actions, and I've used them for work a couple of times. But why? So as biz developers, we need to be in the flow, but so does our audience. So I'm going to show a couple of different items here. So this one is using URL actions to stay in the flow for the person who's consuming the report, so your audience. So in this case, I've got a relatively clean visualization. But what if somebody wants to know, in this particular case, what an electric binding system looks like? So I don't even know what that is. So if I select it, and I've created a URL action, so that way I can see what this product image looks like. And I've got just a Google search of different images, so that comes up. So I can go, okay, that's what that looks like. And if I'm in an office supply company, if I'm new, this might be able to help me out to go, okay, that's what that is. And this, but you could use URL actions for several different things. I've used it when something similar where I was looking up a company and I needed to know, based on the company name, what different information or web searches or websites were out there or the stuff that was available on Google for that particular item. So the way that I go about doing that is to create that URL action, I go to Actions. Again, I have it set up just for ease, but and I'll show you through the edit screen. But I have something, and this is what you'll see in the tooltip is click to see product image. So I'm telling somebody what they need to do and what they're going to get. And then I have my Google search here. Now, for the images, the one thing that's important is to show that $ISCH ampersand Q equals. And then I've just inserted the data item, which is the product name. And I've already tested that and showed you what happens if I select it. So for me, that is, I love being able to provide just a little bit of additional information. And if the person doesn't need it, they don't have to click on it. So that's important for this because I could have put a shape or an image in the visualization itself, but I wanted it to be super clean. So that's another way that I can provide that context or that information to people without it being in their face. Now, the other way that I like to use URL actions is through by emailing folks. And you know what? One of the things that I forgot to mention when I was talking about being able to quickly flip through or scroll through, I have really started to love the slide sorter. So I have a viz that is out of place, so I need to move it up to where my other tip 9 is. So there we go. But I love this because I can see everything one shot. So I'll go back. And now I'll go right to where I need to be, which is emailing customers. So I use the URL action to email folks, and this is what I used in my mentor match tool. So that way, when people were looking, once they saw a list of their individuals, they could click on their name and then bring up their email, and it would email them to say, and then people could write their email out to the person they wanted to contact. So that's why I used it for mentoring match. But what if you're in a company, and so what would the use case be here? Well, for me, if I can see that Tom Ashbrook had $100,000 in sales and Sean Miller had $30,000, maybe I want to email them. Maybe, if I really built this out, maybe $30,000 is a little bit off for Sean. I want to email him to see what's going on. Or maybe for Tom, I just want to thank him for being such a super awesome customer. So again, I've used a URL action. Again, I had it already set up, but I'm showing you through the edit window. I have email customer, so that would be what you'd click on. And it's simply email to, and then the email address, which is the data item I pulled in. So if I test this, you can see that, and I created a dummy email for this data set, but I could say, thanks. And Sean, you've been a great customer. And then go on. So for me, I look at this as just a way of helping the person who's using the report be in the flow with their work. Because then they don't have to switch out and go to their email or remind themselves later to send the email. It's right there and available for them. So for me, I thought that was a really great use case for this. And then we have our last tip, which is about layout containers and how to select them. And I think it comes from Ryan Rowland. So I have a viz set up here. I have a layout container, but it's so it's annoying sometimes because you can't just easily select it, or sometimes you have trouble. Ryan's tip is to double click, and you see that the blue box here that the entire container is selected. So again, something simple and easy, but can save you a lot of time and headache. And so those are the tips I wanted to share with you today. I'm going to be compiling all of the tips in this blog post, as well as all of the responses to that I had to my Twitter question in one blog post. I'll send it over to Patrick so that he can include it in the materials and in the link on the YouTube channel as well, and in the forums, so that way you have a more complete list. And please feel free to send me what your favorite tips are. I mean, I love knowing all of these little pieces of information, because in Tableau, as I think it's a blessing and a curse that it's very flexible and easy, but sometimes that flexibility means that there's several different ways to do it, and you might not know the best way or the way that works best for you, or an easier way. So if we can share, then I think it just makes our experience a little nicer.